Alrighty, this video is going to be a what's possible in a garage with no paint booth, dollar drop cloth. Let me turn these lights on here. Dollar drop cloth, dollar store masking tape. Um, what is it? Paper Trader Joe bags, just to cover the wheels. Trader Joe, Walmart bags for masking, dollar store masking tape. This is not a finish where you can read a book through it, but this is for a daily driver. Good. You can see some dust. I presume that in the sun, it's going to look a little bit better. These headlights were very yellow. I sanded them in 320 grit and then just unmasked them after I had sprayed a whole liter of clear. I realized I had to unmask them. And yeah, that was fun running around trying to do that to the headlights and the taillights. But I mean, look at those things. That turned out good. Man, this bumper's really rough here. I don't know if that's like solvent pop or what. It's raised. It's oh, I know exactly what that is. That's dust from me taking the masking tape off. I didn't even blow this car off before I started spraying it. That was part of the problem. Was I forgot to blow this car off, and all the paper and the masking paper had dust on it. And this is not a paint booth by any means. It's just I took wooden strips, screwed them up into the ceiling where there's 2x4s, and then I took little brass cup hooks, and then I reinforced this dollar drop cloth with some masking tape up top, and I just send the masking tape through the hooks. And yeah, and this door was completely caved in. This car had a very minor side swipe where that was completely caved in. I'll try to get a picture of it. My Bondo work is not perfect, but it's very passable. I'm sure the masking tape isn't going to be perfect in a lot of spots, but for a beater, a daily, these cars blow head gaskets all the time, and they go for about 1,000, 1,500 with a blown head gasket, 2,000. Man, that scared the crap out of me. I thought that was a gouge in the clear coat right there. That's just the toolbox, a chrome on the toolbox. It's funny. These go for 2,000 in decent running condition, but wrecked in the front. For some reason, all these cars are wrecked in the front or side swiped. The grill's always busted up. Man, I wish I had the old grill in here. It looked like a piece of bacon. I don't know why these cars get like that. I guess people are just too lazy to replace the $20 grill when they get into an accident. But I got one of those. I masked off around the emblem. Hopefully that came out all right. We had glued the emblem on before we painted it. And yeah, it looks like it came out good. So I'm glad about that. But this is just, now I would say this hood is where some of the worst dirt is. It's kind of hard to capture that. It's definitely it's definitely raised. That's all dirt. This car did not get tack ragged. This car was not sprayed with a professional spray gun. It's sprayed with an A610. I love this thing. I've been keeping it somewhat clean. I use grease on the cup threads, the air nozzle threads, right behind the trigger, the air inlet threads, the fluid control threads, the fluid nozzle threads even, on the needle, at the seal and behind the seal. So at about right here and behind, it's greased up. No fish eyes in this whatsoever. What I thought were fish eyes were actually chips and dust. and they all got filled in. I guess the texture of the clear coat makes it so that it doesn't really matter. And I'm glad it has some texture because that hides all the garbage. These mirrors I think were raw plastic for some reason, or maybe the single stage had just gotten so bad over the years that it looked like raw plastic. I had to paint this handle. It was raw plastic. I did not use adhesion promoter, and it looks like everything stuck perfectly. Wow, man, it's so reflective. I'm seeing stuff like that, and I'm thinking like, dude, it doesn't even look like it has paint on it. It looks like there's like rust there, and then you move, and it's like, oh, that was just a reflection of something. But I'm very satisfied with this result. The tail lights look incredible. Let's see if we can turn this light on. I mean, the tail lights just look beautiful. They looked like absolute garbage. Sanded those 320, cleared them. I think I used half a gallon of clear. I want to say 2.5 liters of clear. Besney for the clear, that's like $67 a gallon plus tax. It's incredible. Comes with the hardener. I used that for the first time on this car. The 2K primer, that's also affordable. I want to say that's only $70. That was decent. I wouldn't say it's as good as this stuff. This stuff is $51.51. That's I want to say that was $80 a gallon. It came with the hardener. I really like that stuff. It seems to lay a little bit smoother than the Besney primer surfacer. This can also be used as a sealer if you reduce it 10%. But I still like this stuff. This was cheaper. It has its place. It's just clogged the sandpaper after letting it dry for a day. So I thought, no. This one doesn't clog it nearly as bad, but it still does clog it a little bit. I think part of that was how cold it was. When I sprayed this, this was at, I want to say 64 degrees, maybe approaching 70 for the base coat. And then I turned the heater off 1 liter into the clear coat. And it dropped down to 40 degrees by the time I left the shop when I was done spraying and I had cleaned up the air hoses and stuff. The spray setup, this was $50. This worked to do rockers on a van, but it's puking oil out. I have to redo the valves. It blew the valves again. I did the valves, made the gasket. It was working good. And then on this car, a liter into the clear, it blew all its valves and wouldn't pump up any air whatsoever, but it was running, so the motor's good. This one was 75. The check valve had a piece of metal in it. Took that out and it sealed decent. Could hold air for 10 hours, which is, that's plenty. But this one got into thermal overload after like spraying a liter of clear, and then I had to use a pancake compressor. This thing over here is Bostitch pancake compressor. I fixed the valves on that, but it stopped building air after like it built up to 100 psi, and then it just wouldn't build up to past 50 for some reason. And I ran the air hose straight off that pancake compressor. No water filter, nothing. The only circulation I had was this door was open, and that window was cracked half an inch or an inch. This is my setup for whenever I had the big compressors running. It's a Tsunami carbon filter. That's a water trap, which I probably should empty. Oh, it emptied itself. That's nice. That was half full, spraying 3 liters of clear out of these bigger compressors. So you definitely need one of those. I don't know how I got by with a pancake compressor spraying a liter of clear, but it worked. And there's no fish eyes. It's all dust. It's amazing what you see when the clear is nice. I knew that was there, but man, does that look big. I have to do the headliner, so I hopefully can push that out a tiny bit. But I missed that. There's a little dent up here somewhere. It's kind of hard to find, but it's there somewhere. I'm amazed at how little dust it looks like there is on this roof. I feel like if you bury the dust with a lot of clear, you can't see the dust. Man, that's primo. For a daily, that is amazing. It definitely looks better on the flat surfaces than the sides. I feel like I piled more clear up on the flat areas, like the orange peel. It's not as bad in the spots where I went heavy, but yeah, you don't need a big shop. You don't even need expensive materials. This car, at the most, right? I'll ask probably four for this, and it's not like it's gonna go for more than four. Like, yeah, it's got a brand new paint job on it. I did the hubcaps. Where are those things, man? I put them inside the car. But I'll put up. I have pictures of those. But this is gonna be a nice looking car when it's done, all unmasked, and I'll put the hubcaps on it. But you don't need a big shop. This is a relatively small shop. I mean, it fits one car comfortably. That's about it. The other side is my buddy and all his stuff. You don't need expensive tools. This was all done with one of those little sanding blocks and one of these long blocks. I mean, I put 320 paper on that just to get it going quicker. I reuse this mixing cup. I've probably used this like 15 times. Primer, base coat, clear, it all goes in there. And I cleaned it out with E85. People are, oh, you're going to give yourself fish eyes cleaning it out with gasoline. No. As people said, oh, you can't use diesel in a heater. I used it. It worked fine. There's no fish eyes. There's dust. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, this ain't no restoration shop work. But for, if I had to guess, total in materials, including the paint suit, the filters I had to use when I had to use the pancake compressor. I normally run supplied air. That's a very important. I cannot imagine using filters often, because that sucks. That's horrible. But the one defect that I could find that was really bad was I hit the bumper against this bracket here. I gotta like touch that up somehow. And there's a little dent I missed in this hood somewhere. Maybe we could find it. But you don't need expensive stuff. The materials maybe $400 total. For the oil I had to fill this compressor up with because it pukes out oil. Crank walks back and forth like a good half an inch on that thing. I don't know what's wrong with it. But yeah, I used diesel in the heater. I mean, yeah, it was maybe including the heater. I mean, I probably spent $100 on the fuel heating this. I'd say you could do a paint job for $500 all day, and have it look decent, like look presentable. If you saw what this car looked like before, I mean, to me, this is a 9 out of 10 in terms of appearance for this car, for what it could be. And I sprayed it with the Bondo dust still on the floor. I mean, look at that, guys. I didn't even clean this stuff up. People are getting all anal. Oh, you go. I wiped down this car like a little with wax and grease remover. You know what I used? I used an old sweatshirt with stains on it as a rag. Yeah, I could see there's something on that. That's a relatively clean one. But like an old sock. I used a dirty brown t-shirt. Look at that t-shirt. It's got stains all over. I must have used it to wipe up some used motor oil, and then I washed it or something. But yeah, I cut that up, used that as my rags to wipe this thing down. It turned out decent. I mean, I forgot to dust nib it. I should have ran a tack cloth or gray Scotch-Brite over it and then blown it off. But man, it's for me, it doesn't get better than this. You can't lose your mind trying to make everything absolutely perfect, because if you try, you're gonna let yourself down. You're gonna cry about it. Yeah, there's a guy in here. He has like a little Mario character as his profile picture, and he's always like, oh, you ruined your paint. Your paint's contaminated now because you used diesel in a heater, bro. Let's try that out. And you know what happened? It was fine. It worked perfect. I got this base coat off of eBay for, I want to say $260, maybe $270 a gallon. Used about half of it. The first 2-3 coats of base coat. I mean, I came in the next day and it looked splotchy. It looked bad. I'll admit it did not look good. There were some spots. There was a spot on the bumper right about here somewhere where it was like a spot that looked lighter color, but it had perfect coverage. It's just it was the pearl in the paint. Whenever the flip flop of the pearl, I guess, whenever you spray it at a different angle, I must have been trying to fix a little spot or something. Oh man, I used red putty. People say not to use red putty. Look at this stuff. Look how much I've used of this, bro. This is massive. This is a massive tube of putty, and this is how much I used on a rocker job on a van, and this thing, this Civic. People say not to use that. I use that everywhere. Everywhere. If I saw a spot I didn't like, I put that over top of it. I filled whole dents in with that stuff. There was a dent, right, where it looked like somebody took a hammer to this body line. Right there somewhere. I can't see it. I did it to a spot over here. Yeah, man, it's hard to see. See, there it is. And it bubbled the primer, and I couldn't figure out what was up with it. I was pressing it down. There's like air underneath the primer. I don't know how that happened. Maybe it didn't laminate to it, or I don't know. But I took a razor blade, I popped the bubbles, pressed them down, and then it looked decent. I mean, I kind of screwed it up because then I ran primer over it, and I created a run in the primer of sags. That was kind of stupid, but that's my fault. Man, what else can I think of? Yeah, I mean, just look at how much dust is on these windows, guys. Like, this is not. Everybody loses their mind. It's like, oh, you can't paint a car in a garage. Oh, you can't paint a car in the winter. Oh yeah, people are talking about painting in the winter. Like, I was shooting the clear. It was probably 50 degrees in here. I checked the thermometer because I was sweating, and it said 40. I was sweating bad. I'm like, why am I sweating so bad? It must be really hot. No, it was 40 degrees in here. And yeah, the paint's cured enough to where it doesn't leave a fingerprint if you touch it. Yeah, that's good. It doesn't leave a fingerprint if you touch it. I wouldn't assemble the bumper right now. It's you could still dig your fingernail into it. But it definitely hardened up enough, and man, it looks good enough. I don't get how these guys in the Auto Body 101, that's a beginner class. That's the first class you take is 101, or expert and novice. It's like, if you're a novice, you got to do stuff like this. You got to learn your limits. You got to test it, figure out. Oh, you painted the condenser. Oh no, he said you painted the radiator, bro. What car has a radiator up front after the 1970s? That's a condenser. Hey, somebody pointed that out to him. He goes, "Oh yeah, oh it won't work now." That'll be fine. That's barely got anything on it. I mean, the Mako guys painted over top that condenser, so I can paint over it a little bit. The main man, that Mako paint job was bad. There were runs on every single body line. There was a run going the 3/4 of the way across the bumper. I don't even know how they did that. That was ridiculous. I don't think I got one bad run in this entire car. There was a run on this door handle. I sanded everything with 240. I even missed some spots. I didn't go over a lot of stuff with the 320 or the 3. I think it's 320 grit. Let's just say, yeah, it's 320 grit. I went over that for everything I thought, but I missed a good 3-4 spots, and it was 240 grit. It's filled in. I don't see any sanding scratches. Do you? I don't see any sanding scratches. I mean, as I know for a fact, there were bad sanding scratches, and they got filled in. This was one of those spots. It was bad. I mean, really bad. And it all filled in. This bodywork was horrible. I mean, absolutely atrocious. When I sprayed the base coat, I thought to myself, there's no way that's going to look good. There's no way that's going to be hidden. People are going to see that I built out the door. I was like, oh, the waviness. Oh, it looks like a tiger scratched it. No, it's good. For a driver, it's perfect. This car's never going to be worth more than, it's already been in so many accidents. I found broken glass in the rear seat. The core support's all crunched here. The headlight doesn't align at all with the fender. The headlight's inside the fender, you know, a 1/4 inch in one spot, and then outside the fender, a 1/4 inch on another spot. This side of the car is completely wrecked in the front. It needs to be pulled. The back is the same way. The trunk doesn't line up at all. I can literally see into the trunk. That's how bad that is. And on this side, it's better. But this car's been in some serious accidents. It wasn't fixed right. So it's not going to be worth a whole lot without taking it to a frame shop and putting you know, 10 grand worth of work into it. For what? These cars, they go for 2 grand. Leave some comments. I want to hear what you guys think about doing garage paint jobs, how to do it on the cheap, how to do it good on the cheap, right? Base coat, clear coat, as good as you can do it, right? Our standards for what's good and what's not is very subjective, and it's all over the place. People say, oh, it's great, just paint it and drive it. Other guys say, no, I wouldn't do any job that's not perfect. Absolutely. You don't go rent a spray booth or something, bro. Who has that? Realistically, how many guys even have a spray booth? Barely any. So how are you guys getting jobs done? How are you guys actually doing stuff? I was on such a budget. I don't have any money to put more fuel in this heater. I mean, there's a little bit there to fill it up. It'll be full after that. But yeah, I cut it so close on this job. You don't know how little of a margin I had. I worked on this thing for a good month, doing the head gasket, doing the paint. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that, but I needed the experience. I needed to test something out. Oh, you can really see the dust there. I might want to do a flow coat on this where I hit it with 400 grit or 600 grit and just load up on the clear, hide the dust. But yeah, when you have a tight budget, what do you guys do? I didn't have money for the 3M tape. I'm using dollar store tape. I'm using grocery store bags as masking. Look at this tape. This is the tape I'm using. You see this? Man. So yeah, I got one roll of this stuff somewhere, and I used it just to do right under the weather strip and around the weather strip by the mirror. That was it, because this stuff doesn't stick that well. But let me know what tricks you guys have. Like, I use E85 to clean my gun. I can't imagine buying spray gun cleaner for $8 a can. I'll go through a whole can of that just on the primer. A whole can of that just for the base coat and the clear coat. Right there, that's almost $20. You got to go the whole way to the store to get it. I'd rather get E85 from a mile away for $3 a gallon. A gallon. It's 20 times cheaper than those spray gun cleaner cans. I'd much rather use the cheap $70 clear coat, $70 primer, and see what I'm capable of. See what the conditions are that I'm spraying in, instead of spending $200 on clear coat, $200 on the primer, and then you get dust in it and you're freaking out, you're losing your mind. Oh, I'm $1,000 in materials into this, and I have dust, I have fish eyes. It's yeah, you got to think about the value of the car. You got to think about your sanity. Let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know what your tricks are. I love constructive criticism. A lot of guys told me not to run the diesel heater, and I did it anyways just because I wanted to see what would happen, and it turned out fine. A lot of guys said they run these fine, and I'd say 1 out of 5 guys was like, I wouldn't. Oh, are you... The Mario guy, he's hilarious. I always remember him because he's got a Mario character for his profile picture. You contaminated your paint, in all caps. He's freaking out. I mean, the guy's a bozo because, I mean, it works fine. I didn't even use kerosene. This is diesel. This is road taxed diesel. If I could, I'd run the untaxed red diesel, the home heating oil, off-road diesel. but I couldn't find it anywhere that would sell in 5-gallon quantities. When I would blend, if I had to stop, right, the compressor wasn't working right, I would blend with slow reducer. And on my last job, I blended with E85. I accidentally was cleaning out my gun. I remembered I had to blend something, and I blended it with gasoline, and it came out fine. So what I just don't get it. I don't get it whenever you guys are losing your minds and saying there's only one way to do something, and there's another way to do something, and it turns out good. I want to know what you guys have to say about that.